Now, the nervous system is connected to the endocrine or hormonal system via the neuroendocrine pathways. In physiology, the endocrine system is a system of glands, each of which secretes a type of hormone or message molecule. These go directly into the bloodstream to regulate the body. The endocrine system contrasts with the exocrine system, which secretes its chemicals using ducts. Features of the endocrine glands are, in general, their ductless nature, their vascularity, and usually the presence of intracellular vacuoles or granules storing their hormones. In contrast, exocrine glands, such as the salivary glands, sweat glands, and various other glands in the gastrointestinal tract, are exocrine glands that tend to be much less vascular and have ducts or a hollow lumen. The endocrine system involves a number of glands that signal each other in sequence. It's like a marvelous orchestra. The hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, for example, is a primary endocrine hormonal system that profoundly impacts your body. In addition to the specialized endocrine organs mentioned above, many of the other organs are part of the body system, such as the kidney, liver, heart, and gonads. Each have secondary endocrine functions. For example, the kidney secretes endocrine hormones such as erythropoietin and renin. The full list of hormones extends far beyond the capability of this brief overview, but it's essential learning for advanced students of natural healing or medicine. In brief, the hypothalamus regulates hunger, thirst, sleep, and wakefulness, plus most of your involuntary mechanisms, including your body temperature. Your thyroid glands regulate your energy and metabolism. Your pancreas, as mentioned, aids in the digestion of proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, and produces insulin, which controls blood sugar levels. Ovaries in women and testes in men influence blood circulation and determines your mental vigor and sex drive. Your adrenal glands, next to the kidneys, secretes hundreds of compounds including cortisone and adrenaline, which helps you react to emergencies and regulates your metabolic processes, water balance, blood pressure, and more. Metabolism, involving the conversion of nutrients into energy, is heavily influenced by the adrenal and thyroid hormones. The thymus, your T-cell generator, is heavily involved in immunity. The parathyroid gland secretes hormones necessary for calcium absorption. And the pituitary gland controls all other endocrine glands. It influences growth, metabolism, and regeneration. So there you have an overview of your endocrine system. Next is the urinary system, responsible for controlling water and salt levels in your body through the kidney, bladder, and various tubes. The urinary system filters blood urea, a waste product of metabolism. Now here's how your kidneys and urinary system works. The body takes nutrients from food and converts them to energy. Waste products are left behind in the bowel and in the blood. The kidney and urinary systems keep chemicals such as potassium and sodium and water in balance and remove urea waste from the blood. Urea is produced when foods containing protein, such as meat, poultry, and certain vegetables, are broken down in the body. Urea is carried in the bloodstream to the kidneys. Other important functions of the kidneys include blood pressure regulation and the production of erythropoietin, which controls red blood cell production in the bone marrow. Now let me review with you the kidney and urinary system parts and their functions. There are two kidneys, a pair of purplish-brown organs located below the ribs toward the middle of the back. Their function is to remove liquid waste from the blood in the form of urine, keep a stable balance of salts and other substances in your blood, and to produce, as I mentioned, erythropoietin, a hormone that aids in the formation of red blood cells. The kidneys remove urea from the blood through tiny filtering units called nephrons. Each nephron consists of a ball formed of a small blood vessel packet called a glomerulus and a small tube called a renal tubule. Urea together with water and other waste substances, forms the urine as it passes through the nephrons down the renal tubules of the kidney. Two narrow tubules called ureters carry urine from the kidney to the bladder. Muscles in the ureter walls continually tighten and relax, forcing urine downward, away from the kidneys. If urine backs up or is allowed to stand still, a kidney infection can develop. About every 10 to 15 seconds, small amounts of urine are emptied into the bladder from the ureters. The bladder is a triangular, hollow organ located in the lower abdomen. It is held in place by ligaments that are attached to other organs and the pelvic bones. The bladder's walls relax and expand to store urine, and contract and flatten to empty urine through the urethra. The typical healthy adult bladder can store up to 2 cups of urine for 2 to 5 hours. It has 2 sphincter muscles that close tightly, like a rubber band, around the opening of the bladder. These circular muscles help keep urine from leaking. Nerves in the bladder alert a person when it's time to urinate or empty the bladder. Finally, the urethra completes the urinary tube that allows urine to pass outside the body. The brain signals the bladder muscles to tighten, which squeezes urine out of the bladder. At the same time, the brain signals the sphincter muscles to relax, to let the urine exit the bladder through the urethra. When all the signals occur in correct order, normal urination occurs. Adults pass about 1.5 quarts of urine every day, and of course you should be drinking a lot of water. That is, about half of your body weight converted to ounces in good pure drinking water daily is what is normally recommended. I recommend 80% of that be pH adjusted 8 and about 20% of it be ideally structured or clustered water, again energized water. Normal urine is sterile. It contains fluids, salts, and waste products, but it is free of bacteria, viruses, and fungi, which is why it was used when you didn't have anything else during World War I particularly as a cleansing agent for wounds. The tissues of the bladder are isolated from urine and toxic substances by a coating that discourages bacteria from attaching and growing on the bladder wall. Next, let's review the male and female reproductive systems. The male reproductive system is illustrated here. Sperm are produced in the testes located in the scrotum. Normal body temperature is too hot, thus is lethal to sperm, so the testes are outside of the abdominal cavity where the temperature is about 2 degrees Celsius lower. Note also that a woman's body temperature is lowest around the time of ovulation to help ensure sperm live longer to reach the egg. If a man takes too many long, very hot baths, this can reduce his sperm count. Undescended testes, or testes that are supposed to descend before birth, will cause sterility because their environment is too hot, too warm for sperm viability, unless the problem can be surgically corrected. From there, sperm are transferred to the epididymis, coiled tubules also found within the scrotum, that store sperm and are the site of their final maturation. In ejaculation, sperm are forced up into the vas deferens, plural vasa deferentia. From the epididymis, the vas deferens goes up, around the front of and over the top of and behind the bladder. A vasectomy is a fairly simple outpatient operation that involves making a small slit in each scrotum, cutting the vasa deferentia near where they begin, and tying off the cut ends to prevent sperm from leaving the scrotum. This is a popular method of permanent birth control once a couple has had all the children they desire. Couples should carefully weigh their options because this and the corresponding female procedure is not designed to be a reversible operation. The ends of the vasa deferentia, behind and slightly under the bladder, are called the ejaculatory ducts. The seminal vesicles are also located behind the bladder. their secretions are about 60% of the total volume of the semen. Sperm and associated fluid are what composes the semen and contain mucus, amino acids, as well as fructose as a main energy source for the sperm. Also, prostaglandins are present to stimulate female uterine contractions to move the semen up into the uterus. The ejaculatory ducts then empty into the urethra, which in males also empties into the urinary bladder. The initial segment of the urethra is surrounded by the prostate gland. The prostate is the largest of the accessory glands and puts its secretions directly into the urethra. These secretions are alkaline to buffer any residual urine, which tends to be acidic, and the acidity of a woman's vagina also reduces the viability of sperm. The prostate needs a lot of zinc to function properly, and insufficient dietary zinc, as well as other causes, can lead to the enlargement and potentially to constrict the urethra to the point of interfering with urination. Mild cases of prostate hypertrophy, that is, enlarged prostates, can often be treated by adding supplemental zinc to a man's diet. Then there are the bulbourethral glands, or Cowper's glands, that are the third of the accessory structures of this system. These are a small pair of glands along the urethra below the prostate. Their fluid is secreted just before emission of semen. Thus, it is thought that the fluid may serve as a lubricant for inserting the penis into the vagina. But because the volume of these secretions is very small, researchers are not really sure about what its function really is. The urethra goes through the penis. In humans, the penis contains 3 cylinders of spongy, erectile tissue. During arousal, these become filled with blood from the arteries that supply them, and the pressure seals off the veins that drain these areas, causing an erection. Now let's consider the female reproductive system. Eggs are produced in the ovaries. Within the ovary, a follicle consists of one precursor egg cell surrounded by specialized cells to nourish and protect it. A human female typically has about 400,000 follicles, potential eggs, all formed before birth. Only several hundred of these eggs will actually ever be released during her reproductive years. Normally, in humans, after the onset of puberty, due to the stimulation of FSH, or follicle-stimulating hormone, 1 egg per cycle matures and is released from its ovary. Ovulation, it is called, is the release of this mature egg due to the stimulation of LH, or luteinizing hormone, which then stimulates the remaining follicle cells to turn into a corpus luteum, which then secretes progesterone, an important hormone, to prepare the uterus for possible implantation of the fertilized egg. If an egg is not fertilized and does not implant, the corpus luteum degenerates, disintegrates, and when it stops producing progesterone, the lining of the uterus breaks down and is shed in menstrual cycle. Each egg is released into the abdominal cavity near the opening of one of the oviducts or fallopian tubes. Cilia, or like beating hairs, in the oviduct set up the currents that draw the egg in. If sperm are present in the oviduct, if the couple has recently had intercourse, the egg will be fertilized near the far end of the fallopian tube, which quickly finishes meiosis, and the embryo will start to divide and grow as it travels to the uterus. The trip down the fallopian tube takes about a week as the cilia in the tube propel the unfertilized egg, or the embryo, down to the uterus. During this time, progesterone secreted by the corpus luteum has been stimulating the endometrium, or the lining of the uterus. This thickens it in preparation for the possible implantation of the new fetus, the developing fetus. And when a growing embryo finally reaches the uterus, it will implant into this nutritious environment and begin to secrete its own hormones to maintain the endometrium. If the egg is not fertilized, however, it dies and disintegrates. And as the corpus luteum also disintegrates, its progesterone production falls and the unneeded built-up endometrium is shed.